Welcome back for part 2 of the depraved origins of King Kong. I'm not even going to drag this out because we're all here for the same thing. Thank you for watching, and please click like and subscribe and activate your notifications by clicking the bell. Now, let's get into the video and break the code on King Kong.
So, do you think of film as a form of social programming, or?
Sure, it's always been.
Okay.
Always been.
All right. So let's go back then. You talked about how when you were growing up watching.
Well, let me ask you something.
Sure.
Did you see the movie King Kong?
Mm-hmm.
That's about Jack Johnson and the white women. What's a gorilla doing in New York? Ain't no trees, and Lord knows it ain't no bananas. What's there? The boxing capital of the world, Madison Square Garden. So sometimes you look at it and you don't see the code, see through the code. The other side.
Okay. Now it makes sense. Here we go. See? What did I tell you? My bad. Okay, check it out.
Jack Johnson was a black man back when white people lynched Negroes on weekends. They would send him letters saying, "You fighting a white man, and if you knock him out, we'll kill you." He said, "Just kill my black buggers, I'm gonna knock this white man cold." I know I'm bad, but he was crazy.
This was the white man's crown, and everybody hated him for it.
Jack Johnson was a man 100 years ahead of his time. Born in 1878, Jack grew up in Galveston, Texas, in a racially tolerant neighborhood. While Galveston may have been an oasis of tolerance, the rest of the world was decidedly not. Jack Johnson was bold enough to attempt to declare his personal independence in a world defined by race. In his search for money, he didn't have to grow from the ground. Jack started taking part in events called battle royales. These were contests where several black men were blindfolded and made to fight while the crowds drank and cheered and placed bets with blood money. Jack learned to fight mostly without the aid of his sight. He learns to read his opponent's movements like Braille, and he starts winning these brutal, degrading contests with alarming consistency. Jack builds enough of a reputation blindfolded that eventually he starts taking and winning regular boxing matches. In 1902, Johnson makes his mark on the division when he upsets the two-time former colored champion, Frank Childs. The next year, he faced off with the reigning champion, Denver Ed Martin, and beat him on points over 20 rounds. While he was proud of his accomplishment, Jack wasn't satisfied holding a title with a qualifier like colored in its description. As Johnson began his march toward the championship and the old guard of boxing closed ranks against him, the white champion Jack wanted to fight was a tank of a man named Jim Jeffries. By 1904, Jeffries had defended the title 7 times against exclusively white contenders. He retired undefeated, never giving Jack a shot at the title. Jack took that personally. The next champion was decided when underdog Tommy Burns won a 20-round decision over Marvin Hart. Tommy defended his championship 11 times before finally agreeing to fight Jack after he purchased ringside seats and started taunting Tommy during his fights.
Within a few seconds, Burns was on the floor. Burns got up and was knocked down again.
Jack's mastery in the clinch made the champion a ragdoll. Tommy looked like a teenager trying to wrestle with his new stepdad. Johnson controlled every second. The film is stopped by local police the moment Tommy is about to hit the floor. For the first time in history, it was unquestionable who was the best fighter in boxing. The boxing establishment searched for a white man able to beat him. It took them 7 years. Despite the occasional arrests, Jack Johnson was the freest black man in America. He did what he wanted, and the white world hated him for it. He lived a lavish lifestyle of cars, clothes, and had his own ideas on what race relations should entail. Jack Johnson is credited with desegregating more brothels than any man in America. He opened 2 mixed-race nightclubs, and he married 3 women, all of them white. The establishment was so thoroughly offended by Johnson's conduct, Jack's biggest opponent would finally move against him. The U.S. government began to look at Jack Johnson for violating the Mann Act, a law made to prevent the trafficking of prostitutes and broadly enough to be used against anyone the authorities felt like deserved it. The words immoral purposes get applied anytime Jack leaves a state with his own wife in the passenger seat. He was found guilty by an all-white jury and sentenced to a year and a day. Jack skipped bail and flew to France until he finally got homesick enough to surrender to American authorities at the border. Jack spent his next year in Leavenworth. Jack was never the same fighter, but carries out his career to a drawn-out conclusion in 1931. Jack Johnson dies trying to get a meal at a segregated diner that refused to serve him, drives off in a righteous fury. High speed and indignant rage rarely mix well, and Jack wraps his car around a telephone pole. He was rushed to the nearest segregated hospital, but couldn't go the distance. At a time when black men around the country lived as second-class citizens, Jack Johnson lived out loud. His renegade pursuit of freedom would come to redefine what a black man could be. His defiant 7-year reign stands as a beacon for generations of exceptional black men at odds with a society that admired their talent but hated their skin color. He asked neither permission nor forgiveness.
Yeah, now it's all making sense, right? Yes, sir. Yeah. You see it now. So now we see what it's really all about. We see what it really is, man. What's really going on with this thing. And this takes this shit to a whole new level. So they made up King Kong and started a whole new franchise, a blockbuster movie with toys and video games and all of that, which obviously would have come later on. But all of this came from a bunch of bigots in Hollywood and government working together to smear and oppress a black man and to destroy his name, because he was beating up white men in the ring by day and then laying with their women at night. And that's why they made King Kong to shame and mock him on a global scale. And that's how they fight, bro. When you get into them levels, those elite, when you start dealing with people that's kind of making these political type decisions, that's how they get down with you. they destroy you and your progeny for all time. You see? And so he just got, I mean, that's a public disgrace, you know, to create that, all based on this one man. All of that for him. You know, we're talking from 1933 they did it, and then they remade it in 76, and then they remade it again in 2005. Come on, man. And they never said that that's who it was about. They never told that story. We sitting there watching that, yeah, King Kong, yeah, you know, we watching that. Some people got the t-shirts on, and you don't know that that's shaming a black man, because he was dating white women and he was world heavyweight champion of the world and he was knocking white folks out. And in 1933, you know, they were lynching folks for just looking at somebody wrong back then, you know, for like nothing. And here this man is, and he's like knocking white folk out in the ring, and then he dating their women at night. So yeah, he ended up on with King Kong based on him. See, that's how they do it, man. You pissed him off and they will break your finances, smear your name, and drag you in every form of media for the next 100 years. And obviously their ultimate intent would be that they would want him locked up and possibly even dead. Why? Because keep in mind, again, like I said, he's doing this in the 1930s. So yeah, his life was forfeit now. And they were going to get him one way or another. What was the intro to that one movie again? What was that? What did that man say in the intro? Go back and see the intro again. Check it out. Listen to what he said.
And lo, the beast looked upon the face of beauty, and beauty stayed his hand, and from that day forward, he was as one dead.
Man, so do you all understand now how deep this thing is? So when he took his girlfriend, Belle Schreiber, from Pittsburgh to Chicago, October 15, 1910, that's going back, man, 1910, you know, we talking, these people was fresh off the plantation damn near. You see what I'm saying? So here he is laying up with white women and taking them around with him and whatever, and knocking white folks out in the boxing ring. So they wasn't gonna stand for that. So 1910, they charged him with violating the Mann Act. All right, now what's that? Well, another name for it is the White Slave Traffic Act. This is a federal law that criminalizes the transportation of a person across state lines for the purpose of prostitution, debauchery, or any other immoral purpose, essentially making it illegal to transport someone for the intent of sexual exploitation across state lines. Now, guess when this law was passed? 1910. All right, and in other words, all of this happened at the same time. So when did I say that he took his girlfriend on a trip from Pittsburgh to Chicago? 1910. When was the law made? 1910. You see what I'm saying? When he did that, they made up the law, and then they arrested him and charged him with the law that they just made up the day before. See? So when they finally decided that they really wanted to get him, he hadn't broken any laws. He hadn't done anything wrong. So they just made one up and charged him. Now, on a side note, does any of this sound a little familiar to you? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But if you go back and research that story, you see some similarities. But in June 1946, he died during a high-speed car crash. The official story says that he was upset after being turned away from a whites-only diner. All right, and he sped away. He was so upset that he couldn't eat in this whites-only diner that he sped away and was driving crazy and crashed into a pole. So if you were thinking that maybe someone was chasing him or shooting at him or ran him off the road or anything crazy like that, get that out of your head. He was just upset because he couldn't eat at the white diner, and he drove away angry and was driving wild, and that's when he crashed. So I don't want to hear anything or hear any of you all saying anything different. I said what I said. They told you what happened. Let it go. Period. But, you know, I want to say this too. Something else that always bothered me about these King Kong movies. Why is he the only giant monster to always be under the total and full control of white folk? Why? Why are they always able to just knock him out with some gas anytime they want? They gas him, he go to sleep. Then when he wakes up, he's always in chains, shackles, and usually being carried across an ocean somewhere, taken somewhere that he doesn't want to go. And he's just chained up and he can't do nothing. Why is he the only? You don't see, they never chained Godzilla up and took him nowhere. This has never happened with any other monster. But Kong ends up gassed and chained up in almost every movie. So at some point, you got to start asking questions. When you look at all of this together, this actually makes Kong the weakest Titan of them all. Because no other Titan, that's what they call them, Titans. All right, these giant monsters, they call them Titans. No other Titan has ever been chained up and taken anywhere. You know, in fact, you might notice that they really don't even call him King Kong anymore. Now he's just Kong, because Godzilla is the king. See, so he didn't even have the title king anymore, right? He was king when he was on the island in the jungle. But once he got dragged off out of the jungle in chains, he's not a king anymore. Now he's just Kong.
I hate all white people. White people are rotten. And black people are just like them. Because you've made them just exactly like you. They walk like you, they talk like you, everything they do is like you. They want to be you so much. They love your woman more than you do. They know your mind better than you. They wear your clothes. They've even learned to wear your shoes. You take them out of the jungle and you want to make them into a man. Why couldn't they be left to be God? Why do you want to make them into a man? In the jungle, they were God. Africans are smart, aren't they? And over here, everybody thinks them old black people are just dumb old colored folks. But they're not dumb old colored folks. They're very smart. They're very aware.
You tell me and prove to me that black people are violent and that they're going to take over, and I can open up the New York Daily News and show you white people who are daughters, their husbands, their wives, their children, each other off. Well, if we put that in the paper and make it black and white, which is where the whole thing happens. It's in the paper. If a black man does something, it says, John Jones, blacklist, said black, 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 and did the black, black. Now, if a white man does it, it isn't white man Jones. It's just a man. Nondescript, just a regular old raggedy man, went out, killed his 2 daughters and his wife, and shot himself. Now, if he does that, then everybody seems to just either sympathize with it or let it go out the window. But if a black man does it, then any white bigot can point his finger and say, see that? There they go again.
Little subtle stuff, man. See what I'm saying? So, they're even doing this constantly in the new movies. They don't have him chasing the white women around anymore, thankfully. But yeah, he's always in chains. Usually he has to be saved from losing a fight. They even had one where he ran back to the humans because he had a toothache. One of his teeth was hurting, you know, rotting out of his mouth. So he was in pain, and so he went back to them for help and just laid out on the island, you know, and waited for them to help him. He's literally become like the human's pet giant ape. Now, I do like that they made him super intelligent and he can communicate with the humans using sign language, similar to a real gorilla named Coco that they actually had in captivity. And Coco could actually communicate with the humans using sign language. And she actually just passed in 2018. So that's cool that they worked with her. So that's cool that they worked that in with Kong. I like that part, that they made him intelligent enough to communicate. But the fact that he's so dependent on them and helpless against them, nah, man. this is, I hate to say it, but this is just, it's white fantasy bullshit. That's what it is. You know, the big giant gorilla out in the jungle, and then you chain him up and drag him over here, and then now you basically make him into your pet. He does whatever you want him to do. You have total control over him. He's this huge titan, but these people have total control over him. That's, you know what I'm saying? That's crazy. And again, they don't do this with any other monster, just him. So I wasn't even trying to make any of these videos racial. I'm not into any of that. I don't get into all of that, man. That stuff's old. We've been talking about that stuff for years and years. But as you can see, King Kong was created as a racial attack against a black man. So whether I talk about it or not, it's already in there, and it always has been. Nobody nobody knew about it, but now you know. So I'm bringing it out, but that's not coming from me. I'm just telling you what's already in the movie. So let's look at some real numbers for a second, right? This, in terms of where Kong, if he was real, where he would really be on the scale of monsters. You know, how powerful would he really be? They got him watered down in the movies and everything, but if he was real, what would he really be able to do? So let's look at the numbers. So a silverback gorilla is about 500 pounds. They weigh about 500 pounds, which means that they can lift, these gorillas can lift about 8 times their body weight. So if we extrapolate that for Kong, the numbers are staggering. His weight is supposed to be around 60,000 tons in these movies, in these legendary movies. He's supposed to be about 60,000 tons. But if you multiply that by 8, it equals 480,000 tons, which means that's how much he'd be able to lift if he was that big, which means that King Kong would be able to lift a whopping 960 million pounds. Okay, he really would still be the king. Kong, if he was that big, would be able to bench press almost any monster out there. He'd be able to pick Godzilla up and literally throw him. This cat would be able to literally lift and throw around 480,000 tons barehanded with no help, without even hardly trying. All right, 480,000 tons is 960 million pounds. That's how strong that King Kong would actually be if he was real. But then we watch the movies, and he's constantly getting his ass kicked, constantly humiliated, constantly humbled, and the only fights he wins are like against these little low-level monsters that they're only kind of exist in his world, which is like skull crawlers. They call them skull crawlers, dinosaurs, sea serpents, stuff like that. But he can't beat Godzilla. He can barely break the chains that humans put on him. All right, and he honestly can't defeat any of the giant enemies that Godzilla can contend with. Godzilla get out there and fight with these giant, massive things and be just like crushing them. Kong is nowhere near that level, but with his strength, he technically should be able to kind of get in there and mix it up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But he's not on that level, at least not according to the movies. They never show him being able to deal with that. All right. So one of his other problems is that he has no defense against anything. Fire burns him. He can get bit, cut, strangled. Everything hurts Kong. All right, he even one point fighting with the humans, they had a helicopter. It was flying in at him, shooting at him. He grabbed the helicopter. This was in Kong Skull Island with Samuel L. Jackson. That's a good movie if you get a chance to see that. And the helicopter blades cut his fingers, right? So if you imagine if I'm Kong and then the helicopter about yay big, and I reach over and grab the helicopter, the blades cut his fingers. All right, and he pulled back and screamed. Now, I watched a lot of monster movies, in case you can't tell, all right? But I have never seen one that was hurt by helicopter blades, bullets, missiles. Almost nothing that humans make can hurt these giant beasts. And at his size, his skin would have to be so extremely dense just to hold his blood and guts inside. You know, if that big, the pressure inside would be great, would be massive. So his skin would have to be really thick to hold him together at that size, right? But his skin apparently is paper thin, and helicopter blades, he grabbed a helicopter, blades cut right through it. So the fact is that with his size, advanced intelligence, tremendous strength, and outrageous speed and agility, Kong should be one of the most dangerous and powerful titans in the monsterverse. But the fact that he's at the bottom confirms that there's something else going on with this monster, something else going on with Kong that does not apply to the others. That's what I'm talking about. And so now you see why. Now you understand why they have him kind of really down at the bottom of the totem pole. And everything else that comes out there is amazing, and Kong is up here getting cut just with a helicopter blade. Come on, man. Something bite down into him, his whole arm bleeding. So, in closing, I think it's worth noting that Jack Johnson's descendants, of course, knew his story and have been fighting to have his name cleared of all charges and any and all wrongdoings for decades. They want his name cleared. They know he was set up. They don't like what went down. They want him cleared. They requested that he be granted a presidential pardon, and they wanted his name cleared. And they asked this, the first time they asked was when George Bush Jr. was in office back around in early 2000. The Office of the Pardon Attorney flatly shot down the application for presidential pardon. Their response was that they had a long-standing Justice Department policy that their resources are best used to process applications submitted by living persons who can truly benefit from a grant of clemency. Actual White House officials were even more blunt and responded by saying, "Not gonna happen." That's literally what they said when his family asked about clearing Jack Johnson. Not gonna happen. And that was it. That was the whole White House response while George Bush Jr. was in office. Okay. So it should also be noted that Bush Jr. would later grant a posthumous pardon to Charlie Winters, a former government procurement officer who had been convicted of violating the Neutrality Act by helping Israel obtain B-17 bombers during the Arab-Israeli War in 1948. But that old Jack Johnson, sorry, he's a problem, can't help you. That was a done deal. In 2009, when Obama got into office, the Johnson family again applied for presidential pardon for Jack. And while Obama didn't directly say that he wouldn't pardon Johnson, at the same time, he actually didn't publicly say anything about the Johnson case. He had no comment whatsoever. He didn't say anything. But later, the Attorney General Eric Holder, a black man, told New York television station in 2016 that there was no question that Johnson's conviction was a historical injustice. But he said that there were countervailing concerns about the way he treated women. Belle Schreiber, the alleged prostitute that Johnson was convicted of transporting across state lines for immoral purposes, he said that Johnson had beaten her. Well, but Holder continued, all of this has to be balanced before the president or his successor would make a determination. They have to figure this thing out, and we have to decide if a determination is appropriate. So all of this was going on during the whole Me Too movement as well, and they felt like that may also have played a part. Here they're trying to get a man, have him pardoned and have his name cleared during a time when women are all running up saying, me too, this happened to me, this happened to me. And they're just, and so to clear a man in the process of that, I think the government just kind of felt like not a good look kind of a deal. So they didn't care, they left him out there, and they wouldn't even consider pardoning a supposed female trafficker and abuser, even though they acknowledged that he was wrongfully accused and wrongfully convicted. All right, but couldn't let him go. But on May 24th, 2018, 105 years after being falsely convicted, the Johnson family did finally get their wish.
Thank you very much. This was set up quite a long time ago, and while this is a very interesting day we have going, this was very important to Sylvester Stallone, my friend for a long time, Sly, and the whole group. We have incredible people here. We have the current heavyweight champion of the world, Deontay Wilder. He's 40-0, this gentleman right here. He's 40-0 with 39 knockouts. And we have Lennox Lewis, who, as you know, is one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time. Unbelievable heart, and in all fairness, unbelievable talent. He was a talented fighter, a great talented fighter.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Deontay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Lennox, if I really went and started working out, could I take Deontay in a fight? Please no. This is 40-0, 39 knockouts. Could I take him in a fight if I really went to work?
You have to get past those long arms.
I get it. They're long arms.
They're long arms.
And we also have Linda Bell Haywood, the maternal great niece of Jack Johnson. Now, we all sort of have heard of Jack Johnson, had a very tough life and an interesting life. One of the greatest fighters, Lennox was just telling me, one of the greatest fighters ever. The early 1900s. Today, as president, I've issued an executive grant of clemency, a full pardon, posthumously, to John Arthur Jack Johnson. He was known as Jack Johnson, the first African-American heavyweight champion of the world, a truly great fighter, had a tough life. They say he violated the Mann Act, and he had a conviction that occurred during a period of tremendous racial tension in the United States more than a century ago. Johnson served 10 months in federal prison for what many view as a racially motivated injustice. He was treated very rough, very tough. Born in 1878 in Galveston, Texas, to former slaves, Johnson overcame difficult circumstances to reach the heights of boxing, one of the greatest that ever lived. And both Deontay and Lennox were telling me, they study those tapes. I don't know, I think you would have been okay. I don't know, I think Lennox would have been okay too. But truly one of the greatest that ever lived. And he overcame these difficult circumstances to reach the heights of boxing and the boxing world, and inspired generations with his tenacity and a very independent spirit. Congress has supported numerous resolutions calling for Johnson's pardon. Went through Congress numerous times. No president ever signed it, surprisingly. They thought it was going to be signed in the last administration, and that didn't happen. So that was very disappointing for a lot of people. These resolutions enjoyed widespread bipartisan support, including from the Congressional Black Caucus. The Black Caucus supported it very, very powerfully, very strongly, but they couldn't get the president to sign it. One of these resolutions passed Congress as recently as 2015. Jack Johnson was the first black heavyweight champion, and he was the heavyweight champion for many years. He was pretty much unbeatable. In light of these facts and in recognition of his historical athletic achievements and the contributions to society, he really represented something that was both very beautiful and very terrible at the same time. I believe that Jack Johnson is a very worthy person to receive a full pardon, and in this case, a posthumous pardon. So I am taking this very righteous step, I believe, to correct a wrong that occurred in our history and to honor a truly legendary boxing champion, legendary athlete, and a person that when people got to know him, they really liked him, and they really thought he was treated unfairly as a human being and unfairly as a champion. So I'm going to be signing that. Don, if you bring that up, and then if you'd like to ask a couple of questions to the folks. I think that Mauricio Suleiman, we have Jose Suleiman, a name I've heard probably more than I've heard any boxer's names. He's a big power in the world of boxing. And somehow your name is mentioned at every major match. And Mauricio Suleiman. And I think in this case, Mauricio is going to say a few words. But let me sign this first so we get it done. And congratulations, because I know you all fought very hard to have this taken care of. I know Lennox and Sly and my friend Keith. Where's Keith? My friend Keith, who's a very successful guy. And the champ, you all fought very, very hard to get this done, so it's my honor to do it. It's about time. How's that for an autograph? Okay.
That is fabulous, sir.
Okay. That is my great honor, and I think what we'll do is we'll do that to you.
Thank you.
And we have pens for everybody we're going to give you, okay?
Great.
Mauricio, do you want to say something about the champ?
Mr. President, on behalf of the world of boxing, I would like to praise, congratulate, and thank you for taking this gigantic step for human equality and inclusion. Jack Johnson was the inspiration of many, including Muhammad Ali. This is a great day for the sport, a great day for humanity, and I'm just very proud to be here with the best ambassador boxing has ever had, Sylvester Stallone. Rocky has motivated so many generations. Lennox Lewis, one of the greatest champions in the history of boxing, and our current king, Deontay Wilder. It is just an unbelievable day for us, and all I can say, just the way you promoted our sport in the 90s, you're doing so many things now for the sport of boxing, which is unbelievable, and we cannot thank you enough.
And our country is doing great. It's nice to see, but we are really doing great. Lennox Lewis, one of the great champions of all time, in my opinion. I know them all, or at least I certainly know of them all, but I know a lot of them. But Lennox is one of the great champions. Tremendous physical talent, but he also had a thing called heart. And Lennox, I guess you saw a lot of talented guys, and you were looking down at them at the end of a couple of rounds. But Lennox had tremendous heart and has tremendous heart. Would you like to say something about Jack Johnson?
Yeah, you know, Jack Johnson's a great inspiration to me, especially throughout my whole career. And I was always wondering how comes he didn't get a lot of press and what the situation was with him. But I'm very happy that I was here at this historic day for Mr. Johnson and his family. And I think it's gonna weigh a heavy weight around the world that this actually happened, and everybody will thank you, and I'll thank you as well.
I think it's great when a great champion, who in theory doesn't have to worry about somebody from the early part of the century, I think it's great when a great champion comes to honor and even press that another great champion be honored. I think that's a great thing.
Yes, thank you.
I think that's a great thing. Now, you know, everybody knows Sly, and what a job he's done. I tell you what, I love his movies, and I don't care if it's Rambo or Rocky. I still don't know which I like better, right? But Sly is a special guy, and he's more shy than you would think. So I won't even tell him, but if you want to say a word, you can, Sly.
Well, no pressure here, right? Okay, no, I want to thank you, Mr. President. It's incredible that you've done this, because it's one thing, I've been so blessed with the Rocky situation and playing that character, and actually, when I was writing it, I'm thinking about inspirations for this Apollo Creed, and that was Jack Johnson, this bigger-than-life, incredible character, and who was, you know, treated so unfairly. His prime was taken away, but somehow he still managed to persevere and kept a smile on his face, and he's truly an inspirational character. So this has been a long time coming. Of course, Linda, thank you very much. It was so amazing. Probably I don't know how many blood relatives are left, but you're like the one that really, really fought for him, and I appreciate that. So it's an honor to take kind of a fictional character like Rocky and do something in the world of reality. And thank you for making that happen. And punching, Jack.
And you know the beautiful thing about Sly, and I've known him for so long, such a great guy, he didn't want to have any press. He didn't want anything. He just wanted Jack Johnson to be recognized. He really said he didn't want any press. I said, "Do you want to get the press?" He said, "No, no, no." And he said it even before he came down. He did not want any press. And we just said, "Hey, let's do it."
I have stage fright. Can you believe it? After all these years, I just
Hey,
discovered it.
I don't think you have any fright. I'll tell you what.
I do.
But you are a really great guy in so many ways. Long beyond sport and boxing, you are a great guy, and you've been a great friend.
Thank you.
Linda, would you like to say something on behalf of Jack?
This has been a long time coming, and I am really overwhelmed because for so long, my family was deeply ashamed that my uncle went to prison because of how he was treated, and they never really spoke of him. And I've said many times, I did not realize and know he was my uncle until I was 12 years old because the shame that the family carried, and most of them took it to their graves. By this pardon being issued, that would help to rewrite history and erase the shame and the humiliation that my family felt for my uncle, a great hero, being imprisoned unjustly. And so many people have come along with me on this journey. So many people, I cannot really thank them all. The most important person that decided to do this is sitting here to my left, President Trump, and I thank him. I thank Mauricio Suleiman. I thank Miguel Torruco, who took a lot of effort to find me, and Mr. Sylvester Stallone, who boldly put it in his ear. And when he tweeted, my entire life changed. People wouldn't leave me alone. Now it's going to be even more insane, but I'm fine with that. But I appreciate you rewriting history. And also, let me just thank Senator John McCain for all of his efforts, and Congressman Peter King. And I've spoken with Samuel Collins of Hitchcock, Texas, and Reverend Jesse Jackson. So many people have helped me. And my family now can go forward knowing that the shame and the pain has been erased, and history will be rewritten. And I sincerely thank you, sir.
Thank you, Linda.
And you and everybody that brought me here. I am the spokesperson for my family.
Champ, would you like to say the current heavyweight champion of the world? Would you like to say a few words
Yes,
about
I would.
Jack Johnson?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The Jack Johnson pardon is something that should have never happened. You know, I'm here to support the pardon and his family. You know, this is an event that's been long overdue, and it's amazing to see a wrong correct. And all thanks to Mr. President. So we thank you so much.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you
sir.
very much. And keep
Thank you so
knocking.
much.
And they were just nice enough to present me with this. That's a beautiful thing, but I think now the White House staff take it and they put it away. I'm not allowed to receive it.
No, they expect
So
you to start
they put it
training
away.
immediately.
And we'll put it on. Yeah, we'll start
Anyway,
training.
for a rematch, eh?
We'll start training. Well, on behalf of the White House, on behalf of the presidency, on behalf of this country, our country is a great country, and we have done something today that was very important because we righted a wrong. It was a wrong, and a lot of people knew it. I knew it. Without being an expert on the subject, I knew it for a long time. Jack Johnson was not treated fairly, and we have corrected that, and I'm
Thank
very
you.
honored to have done it, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you
And thank
so
you all
much.
very
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Sly.
Mr. President.
Hey, say what you want to say about President Trump, man, but his actions are speaking much louder than your words. All right? People can hate on him all they want, man. But I also want to say that me personally, I still enjoy watching King Kong movies. I like these movies. I'm not trying to get anything boycotted or taken off the screen or nothing like that. I'm a big fan of the monster movies, including King Kong. You know, I know the origin, but you know, I don't let the past twist and taint what's going on today over 100 years later. You know what I'm saying? So we wasn't around back then. We couldn't do nothing about what happened back then. But today, it's just a character. It's out there. They did do a remake of the origin, so they tried to clean him up a little bit. You see what I'm saying? But Kong needs a lot of writing done. They need to do some real cleanup writing and try to continue separating him from his dirty origins. And a lot of upgrading needs to be done to his abilities to enable this character to truly go toe-to-toe with the likes of Godzilla. I hope that somebody at Legendary Entertainment sees this video and does the right thing and addresses the issues that I've mentioned. Now, I know they can't change his true history, but they damn sure can make sure that he's not so weak and fragile in the future with toothaches, and he's always up in chains, and he's got broken bone. He broke his arm in one of the, he had broken hand or something like that, and they had to put a big metal brace around his hand or something, you know. So I mean, granted they gave him an extra ability because he could punch harder with this big metal brace around, but the fact that he had to get his hand broken in order to get it, something that big is not breaking nothing. Come on, man. But when they created this character, they associated him with a black man. Okay, it is what it is. But then cut the bullshit and stop nerfing him down, and we're good. So we just expect more from Legendary and Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is co-producer of this franchise. And we expect more from you all than the previous studios of yesteryear. We don't expect anything from them. No people that they were who they were, they did what they did. But today we expect more from our entertainment moguls. So I gotta rate Kong in multiple areas. The concept is great. A Titan-sized gorilla that learned sign language from a little girl. That's actually where he learned. A little girl that taught him sign language, and she was able to communicate with him. All right, so I think it's cool. I think that's awesome. I put 5 stars on that. But the execution of that concept is bad because they nerfed him down so much. He's easily wounded. He's the weakest Titan of them all when he should be the strongest. I can only really give him about 3 stars on that. I would say 2, but I give him 3 because, you know, he did, you know, kick some ass in a lot of those movies. You know, he put some work in, but he had to struggle to get those wins. So I don't think he should have had to struggle that much. But 3 stars on the execution of the concept. For character originality, 0 stars because he originated as a racist attack on a black man and was depicted as taking the clothes off of white women in the previous movies. So I can't put no stars on that, man. That's 0 stars. That was just low down, unnecessary, racist, dirty, bigoted, all of that. It was trash. All right. But his origin reboot with Skull Island, the Skull Island reboot with Samuel Jackson, this fixed a lot about his dirty racist origins. So these studios and the sick movie executives really got to learn to keep your biases and your agendas and your prejudices out of these movies. Some of us know this stuff like that. Some of us know the truth. Some of us know the real. And then for a creature of that size to cut his hand on the damn helicopter blade, showing himself to be so fragile that almost any creature with teeth and claws can do some serious damage to Kong, while other Titans are impervious to that kind of a thing. You can't hurt them with that. Godzilla, you know, a helicopter, it's not going to do nothing to him. Missiles and rockets and bullets, not going to do nothing to him. Kong, it'll take him out of the fight. So that kind of ridiculousness is just completely unrealistic for these creatures of these types of proportions. So it was a good movie, but the fact that he's weaker than he should be, he's always getting hurt, and he's always got some chains on him, we're going to take off a couple of stars for that. So do better and do right by these beloved characters that we all grew up on. 3.5 stars out of 5 for his reboot. And with that, I bid you peace.